Hello, this is James Helm of Helm Enterprises, standing outside World Headquarters just south of San Antonio, Texas, in extreme humidity. I'm going to do a little demonstration today, showing off my line of tactical tomahawks. I debuted these about a year and a few months ago at the Blade Show, and since then they've been keeping me pretty busy. They are 1/4 inch thick, 4140, full tang, slab handles, held on with flared tube rivets, stainless steel tubing. Woo, kitty, kitty, kitty! Shot cat! The Tomahawks are available in 3 models, each one in 3 different lengths. You have the War Chief model, which is a combat spike, designed for easy penetration, easy withdrawal for follow-up shots. This is a pure weapon. This is for fighting. You have the Wrecker model, which is a pry spike. It is very definitely capable of being fought with, used as a weapon, but it's multifunctional. It is designed to slip into small spaces and allow you to pry. You can see the difference. One's more angular, one's more round. We'll talk about that more later. And then you have the Woodsman model, which is a hammer pole. And it's 1/4 inch thick, so it's not a large striking surface, but it's enough to smash easily, especially if you're in combat and you're needing to break somebody's bones. That will concentrate the force well. You can also do things like drive tent stakes with it. It's not what you'd choose to frame a house with, but it's a decent sized striking surface. Okay. Each of the 3 models are available in an 18 inch length, 15 inch, or 12 inch. The 18 inch is the maximum reach, maximum power, but of course it is bulkier. It takes up more room if you're carrying a lot of other equipment. It's necessarily going to tend to get in the way more. The 12 inch is the most compact. It's going to take up the least room, especially if you're wearing it on your vest, on your plate carrier. You are sacrificing, of course, reach, and you're sacrificing your leverage for that, but it's pretty nimble. I've seen some people that have done Filipino martial arts handle this, and they move it pretty quickly. And then the newest offering is the 15 inch version, which is a nice compromise between the reach and power and the compactness. So it hits there in the middle. It's very nice and nimble, but it has enough reach that you get some pretty good leverage for chopping. All models are available either with or without the sharpened inner beard. So if you are, say, a firefighter who's wanting to use it busting into burning buildings and you don't feel like you need the sharpened inner beard, you're not going to have any combat situations, you can get it without that. You can get it with just the main cutting belt. So you have multiple options. There are going to be a few change-ups coming up soon in finish and handle material. What's on there currently is Durabake. It's a bake-on gun finishing product, and they're using canvas micarta as the handle material. The new handle material that I'm moving to is a product called Taro Tough, which is similar in concept to the canvas micarta in that it is a composite material, stacked up layers of cloth impregnated with resin, but it is all polyester. It's actually tougher. It's also less toxic to work with when you're shaping the handles, which is a nice bonus. The Generation 2 Tomahawks have 5 rivet holes instead of the 3. Just extra rivets in between, and they're a smaller diameter flared tube, so it's drilling out less of the handle material. So should be some extra strength there on the handle slabs themselves. New coating is going to be a black oxide finish. It's just something that I haven't gotten a chance to play with yet. So I'm still doing the Durabake at the moment, but I'll be experimenting with the black oxide, and then if it does as I expect it to, then I'll be transitioning over to black oxide instead of Durabake, and TerraTough instead of canvas micarta. I'd like to talk to you for a second about handle design. A lot of people, when they hear the word tomahawk, they think of a throwing weapon, and that might have been the case more so in the past than it is currently on the battlefield. But most warfighters that are using tomahawks these days are not throwing them and killing their enemy at a distance. I don't care what you saw in a video game. I've literally seen YouTube videos where they ricocheted a 200-yard tomahawk throw off of a wall and killed somebody. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's not what goes on a real battlefield. Most of what a tactical tomahawk is used for these days is breaching, although obviously combat is a usage when need be, but the majority of it is utilitarian tasks. And you want the tomahawk to stay in your hand generally. There are some tactical tomahawks that are built with throwing in mind. For instance, the different Lagana style tomahawks. And I've seen videos with Peter Lagana demonstrating combat throwing, and it's very impressive. Those hawks are balanced nicely and they throw well. Mine are built with hand retention in mind. And to make a handle for a throwing tomahawk and to make a handle for one that you want to stay in your hand are completely opposite design considerations. For one that you want to throw, you want it to be able to easily slip out as you're throwing. Well, that's the last thing you want to have happen in a tomahawk that you want to stay in your hand. So with a throwing tomahawk handle, they tend to taper from wider to thinner. With one that you want hand retention, it's the opposite. It tapers from narrower to wider as it gets towards the butt. So it locks against your hand as the centrifugal force of your swing moves it forward. So it widens towards the end, and then I have a little swell down here for a little extra stopping power. One of the reasons I went with the flared tube rivets is not just because it's a very strong way of holding the scales on, but it gives you different lanyard options. I personally don't use a lanyard, but I personally don't also kick down doors in far off countries. So, but I wanted the option to be there if a person does use lanyards. So each of these flared tube rivets gives you mounting points for lanyards. So for instance, this one, these are all quick and dirty. If you're actually going to be using them, I expect you to take a little more time and use better knots than I did. This is just to give you a general idea. This one, you can see I ran through the top and bottom rivets along the side. The idea being that you slip your fingers underneath it when you're using it, and as you're chopping, it keeps it from wanting to slide out. If you're not wanting to use it, you just put your hands over the paracord and use it like you normally would. If you wanted to use the lanyard, use it like that. And if you're going to rig it up like that, you want it to be tighter up against the handle than what I did here. But this way you don't have anything that's dangling down like you would with some of the other lanyards we're going to see. It's just all right up against the handle. Just slip your fingers under. Traditionally, a lot of lanyards come off the butt end of the handle. So basically slip your hand through. This one's got a knot that will tighten on it and use it. That's kind of the old way of doing it. The problem with this setup is that if you do lose your grip on it, it's got quite a bit of swing to it, and that can be kind of dangerous to yourself and anyone near you if you lose your grip and it goes, goes swinging. It's not going to go flying off and hit someone 10 feet away, but if someone's standing 5 feet away, you might get them. So a lot of the people that are doing, for instance, like competition cutting these days, are using a forward mounted lanyard. So this one is just real simple loop, tied off. You, once again, use a better knot than I did. This was just quick and dirty demonstration. So mounted off the top hole, probably want one that's shorter than what I have on here right now. You slip your wrist through, and then to tighten up, you just twist around until you take up the extra slack. And there you go. So if I lose my grip on this, it's not flying around as much. It's got a shorter radius. It's still dangerous to me, but it's less so, and it's certainly a lot less dangerous to my buddy standing over there. So multiple lanyard options. With the smaller rivets that I'm moving to, it's a little bit tighter fit. You need some kind of a marlin spike to help fit the paracord through, but it's not difficult. You can play around with it, see what setup works best for you if you want to run a lanyard with it. And my cameraman just pointed out that with this option you can also just loop it around the handle a couple of times to take up your slack, be a little quicker. Much the same.
Good.
Down here at the end of the handle, the butt end of the handle, I left some of the tang exposed for a couple reasons. If you do, for whatever reason, decide to throw this, which I really do not recommend, if you hit the end of your handle scale, there's a possibility that I'll break it. So with a little bit of butt extending past the slab itself, it helps protect it if it gets impacted, so you don't chip it out, break it. Throwing tomahawks is very hard on the handles. If you are throwing a tomahawk, expect the handle to break eventually, and I don't care if it's a full tang, I don't care if it's a wooden handle. Eventually it will break. So I don't build these for throwing, I build these for hand retention. If you want to throw them, that's your business, but I do not recommend it. The other reason is that even with one of the spike models, you have a little bit of a hammering surface there. So you can do strikes in a combat situation that would cave in somebody's temple. You can hit them in the joint, take that joint out of commission. You know, that end there is enough to do some pretty severe damage and allow you to do a follow-up shot with one of the more lethal parts of the tomahawk. So it's there for protecting the handle from damage, and it's there to damage the other guy if you need to. Okay, the sheaths on these are bottom eject, kydex, ambidextrous, molly compatible. Should be jump ready, although that depends upon who your jump master is. Making a bottom eject sheath is kind of a challenge because it needs to be tight enough to retain the tomahawk well, but still withdraw and resheath easily. So that can be something of a challenge. They have multiple carry options depending on how you want to set it up. A basic sheath is going to be like this one, minus the carry strap. So it'll be the kydex itself and a single retention strap. Options include a second retention strap. Unless you're jumping out of an airplane with this thing strapped to your body, probably the second retention strap isn't going to be necessary. But it's a little bit of extra precaution. It's cheap. You can take it off if you decide you don't need it. The retention straps are adjustable in tension. I prefer pulling the tension down as tight as I can so that when I undo it, it tends to kind of pop itself open. I'll show you here in a second how they're ambidextrous. The grommets on this allow any kind of MOLLE compatible gear to be attached. So you can hook up some MOLLE locks like I have on there now to put on your plate carrier or your pack, or if you have one of those pickup seat covers that has MOLLE webbing on it, you can attach it to your seat cover. Anything with MOLLE on it, you can attach that. You can attach rubber IWB bands as an option that will be a little more flexible. So if you decide you don't want it rigidly attached to your pack or what have you, you want a little bit of play to it, you can get the rubber IWB bands. The shoulder sling is an option that a lot of people are using. This is a fairly handy way of carrying it. It's quick detachable from both ends. So for instance, you're getting in and out of a vehicle and you're taking the Tomahawk off and the strap's being kind of in the way, you can just pop it off and coil it up, put it out of the way, get back out and just snap it back on, sling it over your shoulder, you're ready to go. It's double adjustable, so you can adjust the height from either end just by using the slider. So you can go from being hanging down around your waist if you want to being pretty tight up under your arm. You just pull it up. Both sides will adjust if you want to. Let's pull that one up tighter a little bit. If you need to, you can take it off like I just did and then reattach it. You can actually pull it up tight enough that you can't really sling it on. You have to pop one of the attachments, put it over your shoulder, and then re-pop it. So that's pretty tight up under my arm. It's not getting in the way very much as I'm moving around. If you have a bunch more equipment hanging off, a vest or what have you, I think I have the strap twisted right now. But if you have a bunch more equipment and stuff, you don't want it flopping around a whole lot. You might want it tied up under. And then whenever you need to get in and out of the vehicle or what have you, just pop it off, lay it aside, get back out, pop it back on, put the sling on. There you go. The sling buckles that stay on the sheath when you pop it off can actually double as belt loops if you need them to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it with one of the longer ones. You tend to hit your knee as you're walking, but like a 12-inch version or 15 works decently. If you want to wear it on your belt for a little while, it gives you that option without having to have the IWB bands necessarily. The IWB bands sit a little nicer, but it is possible to use the straps that come with the shoulder sling as belt loops. And you could also attach a large tech lock right there in the middle if you wanted to put it on your belt or on a backpack or something. So anything that is MOLLE compatible attachment hardware wise should be able to bolt on. And if you want to swap sides for whatever reason that you're carrying it on, you can see that they're held on with a couple of Phillips screws. You just undo those, flip it around to the other side, screw it back on, do the other lock, or if you have a tech lock, there's just the one, flip it around, do the other side, and it's ready to go on the other side. It takes you 2 to 5 minutes to do that. I mentioned ambidexterity a while ago. As a left-handed person, a lot of sheaths are not set up for lefties. So I like ambidexterity. I like being able to swap it from one side to the other easily. Unless you tell me otherwise, I tend to set up carry hardware for right side carry with the edge forward. But it's very easy, especially if you just have the shoulder sling, to go from carrying it on your right side to carrying it on your left. You just take it off, move it around, Now your retention strap buckle is on the inside. You just pop it open, slip it around, reattach it. Bam! I went from a right carry to the left carry. Okay. Drawing the Tomahawk out, pop your retention strap or straps if you have two. Make sure they're kind of out of the way. And then you want to pull the point of the beard down first. And just kind of give it a little quick jerk, pops out. And then going back in, it takes a little more time. It's much easier to do with two hands, obviously. You use the feed ramp lips right there. Those allow the Tomahawk to wedge it open. You use the top point of the edge, go in first, wedge it open, and then pop whatever your backside is, either the spikes or the hammer pole, into place, and then reset your retention straps. So, got it in there, quick jerk, pop, go back in, use the point of the blade to wedge it open, come in, pop it in, make sure it's solid, sitting where it needs to be, and then reset your retention straps. Yeah, there you go. Okay, put on a cheap paintball molly vest just to demonstrate. With the 12-inch version, you saw I was able to sit in the pickup just fine. Just move the handle aside a little bit as you're climbing in. Good to go. With a longer version, it would be down long enough that it would be hard to do that with. Got it attached to the vest. You need to use it, pop the retention straps, just quick jerk down. Ready to resheath. Top point of the blade, wedge it in, pop it in, make sure it's in place. Ready your retention. There you go. Alright, we're ready to actually put these to the test. I'm going to be using an 18-inch wrecker and an 18-inch war chief model for my testing today. You can see this is the results of testing our prototypes. This is an old clothes dryer. The thickness on the sheet metal is about the same as car bodies. It's been thoroughly hacked to pieces. You can see this is the end of a propane tank that we cut the ends off, made into a gas forge. That's fairly thick steel. How thick would you say that is, Tobin?
About 1/8 of an inch.
About an 1/8 inch. You know, it's a dome, so it was strong. I don't think it was mild steel. I think it's a little harder stuff.
Yeah.
We just Swiss cheesed it. You can see we hit through 2 layers of it in several places. That was deliberate. Wanted to see how the penetration was, wanted to see how the durability was. So we have the other end of the propane tank here that we will demonstrate in the video. There are more tactical Tomahawks on the market today than ever has been before. And consequently, they actually cover a fairly wide ground. Some of them are made more to separate fools from their money. Others are made to do the job. The ones that are made to do the job are the ones I'm going to talk about in comparison today. Those get aimed at different jobs a lot. Some of them are very overbuilt, stout, pretty much indestructible. They got very thick bevels. They're not as good at cutting, but they're built to smash. My Tomahawks are aimed a little bit differently. They're 1/4 inch thick. It's plenty stout, but it's not as thick as a lot of the others. So they're a little more nimble. The bevels are wood cutting bevels. We found in our testing that a good axe wood cutting edge was still very strong. It'll cut through car sheet metal thickness without taking too bad damage. You can still cut with it all day long, but it's also very practical for cutting wood. You can see this is some rock hard seasoned oak that we used on the test pieces. And I've got a fresh piece over here that I'm going to use to demonstrate first. I figure my tomahawks are largely cutting tools. Even if you're smashing into a car or downed aircraft or what have you, you're cutting through the sheet metal. So I built it with a wood cutting edge that will also cut sheet metal very well. Set up with this, you can see it is oak that is bigger around than my arm. It's a little short, so it's going to tend to bounce around a little bit. Whenever it does bounce, you lose some of your energy in cutting, but we'll take that into account and we'll show how well it does actually cutting. You know, it's a cutting tool. Okay, cutting test. Oops. See how it's biting in? The wood isn't staying too still. Let's see if we can get it a little more stable in there. See, it's biting deep. I know someone on YouTube is going to say you're going to cut your toes off. That's fine. I've been cutting wood, cutting brush my whole life. I'm not going to cut my toes off. See, the chunks are starting to fly.
Now do the seasoned stuff.
This is seasoned.
The harder one.
Yeah, they're about the same, but I'll show you. So, it's a wood cutting tool. It does well. You can see it's starting to wear the coating a little bit. Not bad. No damage to the edge in spite of hitting that very hard oak. So let's put it to some non-wood cutting tests.
Enough talk! We go in, we kill them!
Okay, I haven't done any wood chopping in a while, and I think you kind of hear it in my voice when I was cutting. It does work the heart. We're going to move on to some cinder block here and see if it does anything to the edge. We'll start with just see if we can carve the corner off there. Nothing to the edge so far. Just scrape some paint. Okay, let's try it a little more forcefully. There we go. Let's try the spikes out on the cinder block. I mentioned a while ago that the combat spike on the War Chief is designed, it's two arcs coming to meet. The widest point is up here. There's nothing to hang up. It's designed to penetrate easily, and then there's nothing to hang up. It'll slide back out easily so that you get a nice quick follow-up shot. It's also kind of a diamond cross-section. This is a bevel, but it does not come to an edge. When it's beveled like that, it helps it penetrate easier. It also leaves a really nasty wound. If for whatever reason the guy you just hit with the tomahawk spike lives, that diamond-shaped wound is very difficult to sew back up. So it's going to make it less likely that he continues to survive the wound you just gave him. Now this is a little more delicate point. It comes to a sharper point than the wrecker model does. Like I said, it is pure weapon. So it's a little pointier, a little sharper, there's less material there, it goes in more easily, but it necessarily is a little bit weaker. We're going to see what it does, how it holds up. The steel, like I mentioned a while ago, is 4140. It's a very tough alloy. It's what I built my power hammer dies out of. So, 100-pound ram hitting at 200 beats a minute. I've used the dies for several years. They haven't had any deformation. It's good steel. So, see what the combat spike does. See, I was hitting right there on the web between the two chambers of the cinder block. So that's the strongest point. It didn't bust as it does down here on the chamber. It's cutting through it. So, nothing. Cinder block does nothing to the combat spike. Let's try the wrecker spike real quick. Okay, this is the wrecker spike. It is built for prying. It is also built for combat, but it's a multifunctional little tool. So it's not as specialized. You can see it's formed from angles meeting instead of arcs. Its widest point is also up here, so there's nothing to hang up. So you still get good penetration, although not quite as good as the War Chief. It'll still sink easily up to the handle. And then there's nothing to hang up, pulling it back out for a quick followed up shot. This also is a bevel that doesn't come to an edge. It's a thicker bevel, so stouter. The point does not quite come down to a point like the War Chief does. It's actually got a little flat area, a little octagon kind of shape there on the end. So it's got more steel behind it. It's a little beefier, a little stronger.
It's faceted.
It's faceted. So we'll use it on cinder block. One of the big uses over in the sandbox for tactical tomahawks is to bust holes in walls to be able to snipe through. See, nothing. This spike's already been tested on padlocks, which we'll demonstrate here in a little while, so I was not expecting any deformation or damage from busting up a cinder block with it. One of the impact points, especially on the longer tomahawks, the 18 and the 12, is the tang itself, the handle. It's good if you're fighting, you can strike, shatter their bones, and then come down and hook them. So let's hit a cinder block piece with it. We'll set it up on the table over there. See what the neck does in an impact. Busted a big chunk out there. Let's hit it again. There we go. So, did a little damage to my point of the beard. That is the weakest point of the entire tomahawk, is going to be the point of the beard. It's for hooking and ripping. So it's very sharp. Not a lot of steel behind it. Did a little damage. We're going to continue to use it without doing any changes to it and see how it holds up through all the tests. So I'll go ahead and do a little more cutting with the edge on this. So
Wire.
we'll do the wire here in a second. Nothing to the edge itself. Okay. This is some heavy gauge copper wire. That was the plug on the clothes dryer. You can see it's pretty thick stuff. See what the edge does to it.
Hit the corner.
cut through. Few tiny little notches. Nothing that's going to affect the cutting. Let's show it on the wood. Still making the chips fly just as well as it did a while ago. Those little chips in it are not affecting its cutting ability. My cameraman has donated the clothes dryer that he grew up with for our next portion. As you can see, that's what happened to our prototyping clothes dryer. This one's an older one. Sheet metal is fairly thick. It's about the same as a car. We're going to see what this wood cutting edge will do. There's always, in any tool that you have, there's always a balancing act between different properties. If it's thin enough that it's going to cut well, it's going to be a little bit weaker. If it's thick enough that it's very durable, then it's not going to cut as well. So this is a nice compromise. Cuts well. It's not an indestructible edge, but it's a practical edge. Even though it will cut wood, as well as an axe ought to, for general purpose. I'm not talking about the fine Scandinavian woodworking done with axes, but just going out and clearing brush in a Texas field cuts as well as it ought to on the wood. It's still going to hold up without taking undue damage from cutting through something a lot more tough on it, like the sheet metal. So, real quick word on technique. If you just go in and hit the sheet metal straight on with the blade, it's going to spread the force out enough that it's not going to want to cut through the sheet metal barrier. So your approach you're going to take is to hit it with the top point. That'll concentrate the force on a much smaller area. It'll punch right through the sheet metal. So I'll demonstrate real quick. I'll hit it flat on. See, it dents, it makes a lot of noise, but it does not want to cut through. Hit it with the top point, cuts through. So then if you're opening up a car or a crashed helicopter or whatever, you're going to hit with that top point and just do a series of cuts. Widen it out. So. See, we can get a pretty sizable hole in short order. Let's take a look at the edge. It's not quite as sharp as it was. See a few little flat areas. But we go over to the wood. Nice hard oak that's been sitting for a while. And it's still cutting just like it was before. Losing some energy due to the log bouncing. It's biting deep into it. Get it at the correct angle, it's going to blast some chips out, and you're going to have a big chunk missing. If you can get it to sit still long enough. If there's a longer branch, it would sit still a little better. You see the chunks coming off. See how deep that's biting. So, do a little more. Another part of the design on this, on all my Tomahawks, is they have this slightly rounded top. The axe is what my dad called a roller head pry bar, and I've heard other people call cat's paws. It's a rounded top pry bar. Gives you leverage, acts as a little fulcrum there. So if you punch in and it catches, you roll it on that rounded top and it pulls it out. Kind of can openers.
Ripping hammers have the same principle.
Okay, ripping hammers have the same principle apparently. So, now I'm going to test that little point. We saw it roll on the other one just a little bit. I'm going to be catching and pulling down. Didn't do anything. Nothing to it. Might have gotten a little thin on that other one when I was grinding the bevel in. So a little weaker. It rolled instead of breaking off. So it's a tough heat treatment on it. Takes damage without breaking pieces off. So you see the size of holes that that's doing in the sheet metal. Just pulling the point down into it. A little more about the design. Sharp corners concentrate stress. That's why you never see, like in an airplane or a ship, square corners in the windows. It would crack at those corners if it did. So if you can round the corners, it distributes the stress around, makes it a lot stronger. See, this is like a 2-inch radius circle there on either side. This is a very strong transition. Science! It also means that it's opened up nicely for hooking an opponent's arm or leg whenever you're in combat. That was one of the changes that I made during the prototyping phase. It was a little bit wider blade, but it was harder to hook around an arm. So I shortened the blade just a smidge, opened this up a little bit, and now it's easier quite a bit to hook an arm. So especially with a sharpened inner beard, you can catch an opponent's arm, come down, and you just twist your arm and you sink that sharpened beard into them, pull back. You have complete control over that limb and probably the rest of their body. You can redirect them and then come up and do a follow-up shot easily. So even without the sharpened inner beard though, that's still there for hooking. You can catch a limb easily. You can pull the point down in. So very good for redirecting an opponent into a position that's better for you to do your kill shot. Okay, we're going to try this one with the point of the beard that rolled a little bit. Probably ground it just a little bit too thin. We'll see how it does in the same exercise. It's still going in easily. Little points did not break off yet. So, even with a little bit of damage, it's still able to do a lot of damage to sheet metal, the other guy, whatever it is you need to damage.
Nope.
I'll try a penetration test now on the sheet metal with the War Chief combat spike. I'm going to hit right about there. See how big a hole that is. It's a big oval. It's got a diamond-shaped cross-section, so it opens up real wide at the ends. So it's going to be hard to sew that up. That was not even a particularly hard hit. Let's hit it a little harder. That wasn't even full force. That was medium. You can see it sunk it down all the way to the handle. Pops right back out. Widest point's right here where it meets the handle. There's nothing to hang up. You see a few tomahawks that have kind of an arrowhead shape down here on the spike? Those make barbs. Those catch. If you go deep enough, those points are going to catch. So this is built where it'll go in easy, come out easy. Okay, try the wrecker spike now. Remember, this is built with prying and poking holes in hard material in mind, more so than combat. It's a little stouter. It's not going to penetrate quite as easily, but I bet you it will still sink up to the handle easily. We'll start with a pretty light hit to begin with. So that wasn't much force at all. That went that deep into it. You can see that's also got a funky shaped wound there. It's not going to be easy to sew up. Let's try more force. About there. Still not sinking quite as deep. Still going in well, coming out easily. We'll try it again. A little bigger. Alright, let's try full force. There we go.
Now pry.
You see how easily that popped back out? That went up to the handle and just popped right back out. If I need to do a follow-up shot, I can do so easily. We'll do a little bit of prying here in a second. I'm going to hit real quick right here at the corner. This is the strongest point on the sheet metal, where it's folded into a sharp corner. You got the most steel there. It's a dome section, so it's going to have the most strength there. We'll see what the edge does to it and what it does to the edge. I'm going to do it two-handed. So cut through. Nothing more to the edge than what we've seen already. Let's hit it a few more times. So, can you get a shot there, Tobin, of how thick the metal is right there? Yeah. That's fairly stout there. And didn't do anything. We go over here to the wood and it's going to cut just as well as it did. See if we can get a little better position.
Okay, go ahead.
See how deep that bit?
Ow.
I hit you.
A little bit. Oh.
So you can see the big chunks coming off. That's after cinder block, cutting through the corner of the sheet metal, hitting on the wood a lot. It's still an edge that you can work with all day. It's not perfect. A few minutes sharpening will bring it right back where it was. Okay, it took a few minutes to cool down. You saw a while ago the Swiss cheese end of the propane tank. We're going to do the other end now, starting fresh. This one has a larger area that's covered by 2 layers of steel. So I'm going to try to aim to begin with down here where it's 1 layer. Then we'll move up here where it's 2. We'll start with the pry spike. Remember, this is the stronger of the 2. Designed more for impact on hard surfaces and less for penetrating soft surfaces. So we'll see how it does first. And I'll aim about there. See how it went through? And nothing. Didn't do anything to the point. Got closer to the edge that time. So let's try up here with the 2 layers. I'll aim about there. Ah, missed. Ah, missed again. There we go. So that one poked through the first layer and dented the second. This is a little bit stronger than the foot ring that was on the bottom of the propane tank. It's penetrating that top layer. So the one, when it's hitting the single layer, it's punching through very easily. No trouble whatsoever. Let's try the little more delicate point of the combat spike. Okay, a little more delicate point. Once again, we'll aim out here in the single layer. We'll try up here in the double layer. And there you get a good look at the kind of diamond-shaped hole that it leaves. I'm not even hitting it with full force. You can see how deep it's going through. No damage so far. Let's try up here. So, hit right there, and it's actually pushing the dome of the steel down, denting it in. So it penetrated through the top layer all the way, but the second layer it's denting it in instead of penetrating through. So we have no damage. We've scratched a little bit of the finish off.
Go.
Okay, do a little bit of prying on this. As we talked about a while ago, the pry spike is a couple of angles coming together to form the point with the curved top. So it's angled where you can fit the point into a door jamb without knocking your knuckles up against the wall. That's one of the changes that I made during the prototyping phase. So it's wider than a 90-degree angle. You can slip in and not be hitting your knuckles. So we're going to try a little bit on this panel back here, prying. Washer a little bit light, so it's not going to anchor itself all that well. But we'll see what it does. We'll actually start over here where it's more solid. So, ready?
Yeah.
Slip it down the little space. Pry.
Smooth.
Alright, I'm going to use the wrecker to bust some padlocks. That same wrecker is the one that did these two. You may have noticed when we started that the Durabake had some scratches on it. That's from busting these two. You can see how many times it hit. And just the force of hitting down here broke the shackle on this one. This one got hit from all sides and it popped the shackle loose and damaged it enough that I can't put it back in. So, and the end of the spike had essentially no damage. It just scratched the Durabake finish some. So this will be padlock number 3 with the same Tomahawk, in addition to all the other testing we've done so far with the spike.
We're rolling.
See how well I can aim and actually hit the lock instead of the tree. Yep, hit it right in the middle of the master, right there in the blue. You can see it's pushed down the steel. First hit, nothing. Whoops, missed. There we go. You see I'm hitting with a fair amount of force on the steel, doing no damage really to the spike. Doing more damage to the tree. Try to get the ends of the chain out of the way a little bit. Still hadn't really done anything to the spike.
Okay.
Still hanging together. We doing a fair amount of damage to the padlock. It's really bent over now. Started to show just a tiny bit of deformation on the end of the spike. Not much at all. There we go. And it snapped the shackle down inside. Actually bent the shackle a little bit and snapped it off down inside. So you can see how many hits we did to that padlock, master lock, and got a little bit of a roll, a little bit of a burr where the steel upset into itself. So good tough heat treatment. We're going to try one more padlock.
Okay.
On this one I'm going to try a little bit different angle of attack. I'm going to come in from the top if I can and try to strike near the shackle. I think I hit the chain more than anything else. There is a glancing blow off the body of the padlock. Ah, chain slipping.
Right.
Ah, keep missing it. There you go.
I think you kind of dug into the tree. How's it looking?
A little more deformation, not much. As it's upsetting into itself a little more, it's got a little more surface area there. It's pushing it back just a bit more. That chain is good. Oh, there we go.
We'll come down.
Ow! Just poked myself. There we go.
Got it.
Got some sharp points poking out on this one. Up. So you can see how many times I got hit, and very, very little to the point of that. We'll go over here in a second to the clothes dryer and show it doesn't have any effect on how it penetrates. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
One you just use after you busted all the padlocks? Left a little indentation. deformation right there.
You weren't hitting it very hard either.
Nah, I just let it fall, basically.
That's at least 2 layers there.
Yeah.
With some space in between.
I wasn't really even swinging it. So, I'm gonna swing it now. Just get your hand swing. And that wasn't even that hard either.
Now sank up to the handle.
Yeah. So you got a good one.
Yeah, let me look at the hole.
Yeah.
That's a big hole.
Yeah.
Do the propane tank in.
Okay. So if you're busting drums, you know, that's good for busting 55-gallon drums there. And I'm just basically letting the weight do the work. I'm not really swinging hard. It's giving those nice little cut throughs right there. Punch throughs. That was just a little glancing blow, and you can kind of see the deformation right there.
Any change to the tip since we got through the padlocks?
Nope.
Okay.
Done nothing. Yeah. Look a little more. Now I'm gonna kind of see if I can bust the joint here. It's a little, seems to be a little stronger. I'm gonna see if I can pry it. That's moving. Now, I'm a big guy, and I'm throwing all my weight behind that, so it's, yeah, that steel's a little stronger than this, so. All right, I'm gonna test the edge along that. That's hardened steel. You wanna do it?
Got it.
All right. So this is edge on edge contact. Small nicks.
I think most of those were already there. There's a little bit new.
Yeah, that's new right there.
Not much.
Mm-hmm. It's got a little roll burr from hitting, but that's about it.
Oh gosh, that would sharpen out and
Yeah, but look,
time.
it's hardened. And it cut through it pretty well. Cut through that one. Let's see. Same thing. Yeah. I nicked it out just a little bit.
That's it. We'll do a little bit of wood cutting.
Yeah. That almost hit me.
Lucky you're not Brett. Every time I cut wood with him around, it heads straight for his crotch.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
That's still making the chips fly just as well as it was. It's biting just as deep as it was.
So you're not going to cut paper with it, but that's not what this is supposed to do.
But you'll cut wood. That's even as much as we've done with it so far. It's still an edge that you can cut wood with all day. So, nice, tough heat treatment on it.
Here, hold it. Now, hold on. Let's do the really crazy thing.
Oh gosh.
Just a piece of the cinder block. They got the burr out there. Got rid of most of the rollover.
There wasn't much. It was very slight.
Yeah. Let's see. Right here. There you go.
Good.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta do a little impact test with the exposed butt of the tang. I'll do it on the steel first, then the cinder block. See, put a fairly nice dent in the steel there. Cinder block. Busted it up. That's where the webbing on it was, so it's thick, strong area. So impacted a little bit on the micarta, scuffed it just a bit, scuffed the Durabake, hadn't done anything to the steel. If that's somebody's temple that you're coming up against in a fight, it's going to break bone easily. You see how we're mashing down the top of the clothes dryer underneath.
Cool. Go for it. Go. just pull the Simpsons.
So after some pretty rough whacking around on sheet metal and stuff, no major damage. It's still a nice thin edge. There are a few chips out, there's a few flat spots, but all in all, that'll still be cutting hardwood all day. So I think we put it through a pretty good test today. Thank you for watching. We'll do some more later.
You can kitty tax.